Not every athlete who comes into my program gets the same level of result, but there's something that's very consistent across the board. It's not always the guy who's more athletic or more gifted or somebody who had a worse injury than another that gets the best result. But the guys who get the best results come in with a very similar mindset, situation, and level of commitment. So in this video, I want to break down the guys that are the most successful and the guys who don't get the best results. The first characteristic of the guys who get the best results that I work with is they're coming off of an injury sometime within the last 12 to 18 months. That could be a surgery, that could be extended time on the IL, that could be PRP, stem cells, cortisone shots that sideline you for a while, but there's something more that's going on than just general aches and pains. So the most common things that I'll see are gonna be low back pain, ulnar nerve pain at the elbow moving into the hand, shoulder impingement, labrum tears, bicep tendonitis. The most common things that you see baseball players experience are the most common things that I'm going to see and work with. But the guys that come off of these surgeries or these longer stints of rehab also generally have missed an extended amount of playing time. Oftentimes we work with guys who have missed 2 to 3 years of competitive baseball, dealing with one injury that just keeps happening over and over, or the location of that pain starts to bounce around their body. They've also probably tried physical therapy, chiropractic, massage, cupping, dry needling, red light therapy, stem cells, PRP, cortisone, any traditional thing out there. You've probably tried at least one of those things, if not multiple of those things, and you just haven't seen the results. And I don't want to come off as I'm knocking those types of rehabs, because they absolutely have value in place and they can be very effective. But the guys that we work with generally have tried those things and not seen any long-lasting results in the ability for them to curb the pain and stay on the field without re-injuring or injuring something new. A lot of them also come in a very broken mindset, which is completely understandable. You've been injured for a year, sometimes up to 3 or 4 years, missing competitive baseball. When your entire life you've identified as a baseball player, and now suddenly that thing gets yanked from you and you're walking around the world aimlessly of not knowing who you are, that is a very, very lonely and self-defeating place. So I would honestly be kind of concerned if you didn't feel some level of brokenness, whether it was my body just won't work for me, or the mental or emotional load that comes from just having repeated injuries over and over and in and out of rehab, in and out of the trainer's room. All of that thing is going to wear on you. So if you didn't have some level of mental or physical kind of ideology of like feeling broken, and even if you don't want to admit that to yourself or go as far to say, no, I don't think I'm broken, what I'm doing just isn't working right now, it's in that same vein. The guys that we get the best results with are generally exhausted of trying to find things that will work. And desperate might be the wrong word, but they're just looking for something to finally be the thing to change their situation. And posture therapy is just like the last thing that they haven't tried yet. But if it was the first thing that they went to, oftentimes, like they tell me when they get done with the program, they feel like their situation would have looked entirely different from the start of when that injury happened. As far as communication is concerned, these guys are on top of their communication. They send in their video for analysis regularly. They respond to the feedback with any questions. They send pitching video of them working on their mechanics throughout the season, because I'm not going to try to directly change your pitching mechanics, but there is some inefficiency within how you throw right now that is putting stress on your body, whether it's hip, knee, ankle, low back, upper back, shoulder blade, shoulder, elbow, it doesn't matter. There's some sort of inefficiency within your movement profile that is causing the stress to go into that place. So that is something that we have to address. But it's hard to address those things if we're only ever talking about them on the days that we meet. So staying on top of the communication with the video that you have, any sorts of questions or concerns that pop up, all of those things need to be met head on, but that's a personal responsibility on you, because it would be very difficult for me to text you every single day to try to get all of this information out of you when you also have my phone number, you have the direct access to me, and you can ask whatever questions or concerns that you might have. So the guys that get the best results take full advantage of that. Hey, I felt this on this exercise, is that right? I didn't quite feel this here. All of those things are important, because the more that you communicate, not only with me, But the more that you're able to tap into what these exercises are doing while you're doing them, the better result you're going to get. So not only are these guys communicating what's going on, but they're also highly intentionally focused on what they're doing with their exercises. Because at the end of the day, we want to create more efficient movement profiles by getting your body into a better alignment. But you have to be able to feel that change as well in order to gain the mental confidence to go out on the field and say, no, I am good to go right now. So all of these things play into one another. You need to relearn your body, the movement profiles, how things are feeling, but you also need to be able to communicate effectively with what's going on in your situation. Oftentimes, these are kids that get really good grades, they show up on time, they're respectful of other people's time, and they're able to manage their calendar in a way that you're going to be able to do your exercises consistently, but you're also going to be able to have that time to communicate for any sorts of questions that you have. This program probably isn't right for you if you can't take feedback, if you can't be coachable, if you can't show up to your calls on time, if you can't respond to the feedback that I send to you, and if you can't communicate what your situation is looking like. But the number one way that you will not get results within this program is expecting a magic fix overnight. This is not a magic pill. There's not one singular drill that you can do that's going to fix all of your issues for the rest of your life. That is not a realistic expectation. For you to go through this program and really get the results, you have to dedicate and buy into the process. This is not a snap of the finger and all of a sudden you're fixed. It can be like that, but that is not an expectation that you should be carrying into this of this guy's going to fix me in 1 second. I don't have to do any of the work. That's not true. You are going to have to work on yourself because I can give you the plan, but if you don't execute the plan, nothing's going to change. So when we're talking about best results, let's kind of define what that is. So we aren't necessarily going from I'm in level 10 pain to I have 0 pain, but we are decreasing the amount of pain that you experience, getting it down to 0. We're improving the movement profiles that you have, which is going to take the stress off of your body. But that's also going to allow you to move more efficiently as you're trying to throw or swing, which allows you to have a higher force output, increased velocity, increased exit velo, whatever the metric that we want to work on, it comes from movement efficiency. Yes, it comes from force production. You have to be strong, but if you are strong and you went through the weight room and you're like, I feel bigger, faster, stronger than I ever have before, but yet I'm still in pain or I still am not throwing as hard as I want to, it comes down to efficiency as you're leaking force throughout your movement. So if we decrease all of those gaps in the force leak, all of a sudden you're moving more efficiently, you're maintaining that force, the velo goes up, but most importantly is like the mental and the emotional confidence that comes from being physically sound. Once you feel like you're able to go out there and do all of the things that you know you're capable of, that's really where you start to take the jump forward, at least from an on-field perspective. Because it's very hard to say like, I know that if I get into that position on this slider that I'm going to feel it. It's hard to commit to go into that position to get the rip on the pitch that you need. So if we're out here thinking about like, I've got to get into this position to be effective, or I've got to do this with my wrist at release, you're not going to be able to get the best result on the field because you are thinking. You are not just going out there and reacting to what is happening. The goal isn't just to get you out of pain, but it's to get you to the point where you feel so confident that you weren't even thinking about the injury that you were dealing with before. So if you're an athlete and you've taken ownership for your situation, you can follow a plan, you can communicate effectively, you will get a very, very good result within doing this program and getting your body into a better position. But if you're ultimately looking for a quick fix, this is not the program for you. So if this sounds like you and you're coming off of an injury and you want to learn more about how posture therapy can help you get back on the field pain-free, click the link in the description, book in a call where you'll talk to either me or one of my team members more about your situation, what's going on, the things that you've tried, and explain to you how posture therapy is going to help get you back on the field pain-free.